Hello, Greg Herbert here. I was taking a sabbatical of recent from making videos, as for some of the time I was, while keeping track of my business here in California. I had also had time to travel, as I had toured through Poland, Slovakia, Slovenia, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, the Czech Republic, and even had made a trip to the Holy Land of Israel. I had the time of my life there. It's nice to be around such great freedom-loving people. Wonderful people that value life, love, and humanity. Now I am back in the States again, and happy to be back doing commentary and analysis videos for Craf. I would right now like to give a big shout out to all those who have stayed strong and supported the fight for keeping anime fandom strong in the face of the many adversities. Chiefly to my good friends the great Mr. Dammy Goldstein, also known as the Rise of Titus Irie. Good to see you standing strong for decency and common sense. And the right arm of Edward Elric and her successful ongoing initiative sustain the industry. Though some things have changed, it's nice to know that some things haven't, and that gives me confidence to accomplish some unfinished work. Looking back the past 6 or 7 years, it's wonderful that Craf has made its mark on the fandom in its own way, speaking as a voice of reason amongst the foul, putrid stench of fanboy and fangirl bloviation, standing for truth against the voices of deceit. In my first video of 2013, I'm going to give a statement to many of the people out there speaking out against those that are clamoring for decency, straightforwardness, and quality in the world of anime and manga, and to an extent Japanese pop culture. In my years of speaking to people about anime and manga, there are 2 subjects that have become the most polarizing in discussions. One is the sub versus dub debate, which I will not talk about on this video, and the other has been that of sexuality and the use of sexuality in anime and manga, which I will do. Namely, this comes from my conversing with many fanboys and fangirls that use the excuse that having an interest in the proliferation of anime and manga, and even video games, J-pop, J-rock, that is grossly covered with fan service today, as opposed to have, or continue lustfully distorted view of said media, or to believe that this kind of media is okay. Beside myself and Craf, there have a huge number of intelligent, well-versed people on and off the internet that have been speaking on this topic. Since the beginnings of anime in the 1940s, there has always been in anime that harmless bath scene where the naughty peeping toms were righteously paid back by the justified bucket to the head, or later the somewhat more perverse accidental breast grope or similar, balanced by the righteous kick in the head or wallop punch. In the later part of the early years, adult sexuality seeped in, although restricted only to adults, as the porn industry was non-existent and comics with such graphic images rare. As American influence remained strong, and Japanese morals were likewise in order. However, as the internet and computer technology combined with the unity of the otaku culture becoming well more unified in the 1980s and 1990s, the yang has been separated from the yin, and the checks and balances of morality have been robbed from the world of anime and manga, feeding the uber-troll culture of perversion, loose sexuality, and immorality of society. This came at the same time as the general tone of the Japanese pop culture got more and more out of order. Androgynous rock singers and pop singers more and more blurred gender lines, promoting subliminal homosexuality, lesbianism, and loose sexuality. The subgenre of hentai, non-existent in the 1960s and 70s, came on the scene in the 1980s, and slowly crept into the general anime and manga universe more and more. Each and every single year, anime and manga that catered to a general audience became more welcoming of women with oversized breasts, and feminized men, pseudo-hentai and fan-service-heavy characters and tones became the new norm. As anime and manga claimed larger and larger global audiences outside of Nippon, the Japanese attracted would-be fanboys and fangirls, not only with images of cool ninjas and samurais, and cute and cool monsters with super fighting powers, but also images of over-the-top sexuality, big boob bimbos, effeminate men, subliminal lesbianism, snaring the least common denominator, over-the-top fanboy and fangirl suckers having lots of peripheral income with anime and manga and video games with good-looking images, but no storyline and no plots. Good-looking musicians having no musical talent whatsoever. Ultimately, the small subculture of anime and manga fandom became overrun with fanboys and fangirls with no life, singing the high praises of good looks over all talent, strong plots, and character development. Ultimately, fan service has been such an influence over Japanese pop culture it has sacrificed the art of anime, the art of manga, the art and challenge of many video games for the greed of filthy lucre, and to put a bad name to lovers of such who are not into the over-the-top sexuality, or the horrific androgyny or promotion of borderline pornography, and straight-up immorality which have been used as selling points, and have been used to influence others outside of Nippon, to lure not only the Japanese definition otaku but the innocent people outside of Japan, mainly in the West, deceived by the images of cool-looking cartoons and exotic-looking people, only to be spirited into a world of the over-sexualization of women, later men, and recently children. Now the forces of that immorality have joined forces with the perverse furries, the same deviants that have stunk up places like DeviantArt and Fur Affinity, creating one big bad bathhouse of disgust. It's a hot mess. I can sympathize with many of the great men and women that have spoken through the years, including many of my brethren and sisters at Craf and our sister organizations that work hard to educate the uneducated about the truth and reality of anime, manga, video games, and things from Japan. When fellow YouTuber Jaded Otaku Media speaks against excessive fan service in anime and manga, I stand 100% with him, because it's gotten too far out of hand. When video game bloggers speak out against the sexualization of mainstream video games to appeal to the FAPA minority, I stand with them, because they are 100% in the right. When a blogger speaks out against the sexuality of Japanese modern culture, I stand with that blogger, because it's the truth, the honest reality. And yes, when the mayor of Tokyo, Shintaro Ishihara, stood up to the sex-obsessed pop culture and fought against the immoral status quo, I stand with him, because he is right. The sexualization of women and children, the feminization of men so prevalent in its pop culture that now it has crept and seeped into the culture at large, where there are now sexual videos of prepubescent Japanese boys and girls. There is something wrong. Wrong, 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 and you know it's wrong. And to my many detractors that complain about people like myself being snobs, well, as I have said in previous videos, what's wrong with being a snob? Is there a problem in today's world with having standards? Is there something wrong with being selective about media, because the status quo has gone off the deep end of the pool? Is there something wrong about being an independent mind that thinks outside of the box? Is it a bad thing to harken back to the old-fashioned way, when anime and manga were given praise because of story and characters, and not how much tits and ass you can stuff? Is it a sin to be discreet about sexuality, rather than have it out in front forced to you? Is it a crime to realize that there are a majority of people that play video games because they are fun and challenging, and not because they have attractive characters to masturbate to? Is it a shame that there are people, not a minority, but a majority, that don't agree with the long-standing trend towards so-called rock and pop artists that go on their looks and have no underlying, no talent, that don't agree with the lie that so-called alternative lifestyle, so-called alternative sexuality, pornography, pedophilia, and bestiality have been pushed more and more to the forefront of mainstream Japanese media, that know that something is completely wrong with not just Japanese pop culture, but Japan to an extent itself. In my opinion, there is not, and if I am perceived to be a snob, then so be it. If the perverts have a right to freedom to promote filth and unruliness, then I, and those like-minded, have equal freedom and total right to call them down on what they do, and explain why they are wrong, and why people must wake up and stop this hot stinking mess. I am sick and tired of it, and I am going to speak my mind about it, whether the stupid perverts and those that disagree with my fundamentals like me or not. I don't care if you call me a snob. I don't care if you say I'm an elitist. I don't care that you hate me because I think your interests are wrong, or just plain suck. I believe that there is better than this, that Japanese pop culture is better than this, and that Japan is better than this. So let's get to better right now.